Tonight on KGW News, nothing to see here.
I'm telling you, nobody knew anything about this.
As questions swirl over Bourbon Gate, the board that oversees state regulators accused of swiping the best bottles seems to sidestep. Plus, should Eastern Oregon be part of Idaho?
This would be a solution that would solve a long-standing problem.
How the movement quickly gained ground with a vote in Idaho's state house. But first.
And then that's when I start screaming. I'm like, oh my God, you just cut me.
A survivor speaks out after being assaulted. Why police say the man allegedly behind at least 4 attacks could have more victims. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko, and we begin tonight with the arrest of a grocery store worker. Portland police are calling a serial assaulter. A warning, some of the details here may be disturbing. Our Catherine Cook talked to one of the survivors.
Police say all 4 attacks happened in this neighborhood near Southeast 10th and Belmont. In fact, court documents say the suspect worked right here at this market of choice. His name is Christopher Lucchini. Here's his mugshot. Police believe there may be other victims out there who haven't stepped forward yet. They hope they do. So does one victim we met.
I don't know, I'm pretty traumatized in the situation. I'm just scared, like I'm always looking over my shoulder.
Tooney's shoulder is now a constant reminder of what happened 2 weeks ago. It was the night of January 30th. Tooney says she and a friend were leaving a yoga class near Southeast 8th and Morrison when a man approached her from behind.
And he tapped me on the shoulder from behind, and then he just, I think the knife was inside of his sleeve, so he just kind of just cut me down the shoulder.
Police later identified the man as 27-year-old Christopher Lucchini.
And it felt like 5 seconds that we were just staring at each other, and then he just starts walking away, and then that's when I start screaming. I'm like, oh my God, you just cut me.
Police say it was one of 4 similar attacks carried out between January 12th and February 7th, all in this neighborhood, all against women, and 3 resulting in knife injuries like 2 knees. Court documents show investigators found multiple surveillance videos confirming that Lucchini was their suspect. Then, on Tuesday night, police arrested Lucchini at the Market of Choice. They say property found with a search warrant connected Lucchini to the assaults.
Page 15, line 3, last of Lucchini, first of Christopher.
On Wednesday, Lucchini was arraigned on multiple charges, including 3 counts of assault in the second degree. In court, a prosecutor read statements from 2 of the victims, including one woman who says Lucchini cut her arm.
I stopped going out at all, as every person who walks by me has the potential to hurt me. I have to sleep with a nightlight, and my door now open to stop the anxiety attacks at night.
Scars, emotional and physical, Tooney can relate to.
I just hope that he doesn't do this to anybody else, and I hope he stays behind there because I'm scared for my safety.
In Southeast Portland, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
And our thanks to Tooney for speaking out there. Developing tonight, Vancouver police are looking for help finding a missing 3-year-old boy. Zane Alex Taylor was last seen with his father, Caden Milligan, who authorities say does not have custody and fled with the boy following a criminal investigation. Now, Zane is 3 feet tall, 26 pounds, was last seen wearing tan Carhartt pants and a long sleeve shirt. Anyone who sees them should immediately call Vancouver police. Well, to our homeless crisis now, in a grim tally that emphasizes how badly our region needs solutions. Multnomah County and Street Roots have released their annual report on the number of homeless people who died, and it's the largest number since the county started counting over a decade ago. Now, the report says 193 people experiencing homelessness died in 2021. That's up from 126 in 2020. Substance abuse here continues to play a significant role, according to the county. Meth was involved in 93 of the deaths. That's nearly half. And you see fentanyl is responsible for 36, up from only 4 the year before.
Really sad to say that I'm not surprised by the findings in this report. They mirror larger county trends in terms of violent deaths and certainly overdose.
Well, 2021 was also the deadliest year when it came to homicides among people who are homeless. The number more than doubled from 8 in 2020 to 18 in 2021. Well, to an update now on what the story team is calling Bourbon Gate. That's the aftermath of an internal investigation that found executives with Oregon State Liquor Control Commission used their positions to keep rare top shelf bottles for themselves. And today, for the first time since this scandal broke, we heard from the board that oversees the commission. Pat Doris looked into how the chair seemed to deflect responsibility and instead complained the media were asking questions.
First, to set the scene on this, you need to know that Oregon is a place where all hard liquor is controlled and taxed by the state. The state buys the booze, then sells it to independently operated liquor stores. One of the most coveted bottles that passes through the OLCC is a Kentucky bourbon called Pappy Van Winkle. It's made in small batches, aged as long as 23 years, and it retails for about $300. According to an investigation uncovered by the Oregonian, top managers at the OLCC had some of the bottles set aside for themselves before the public had a chance to buy them in a lottery system. The investigation found this practice that we're calling Bourbon Gate has gone on for at least 8 years and involves 6 top managers, including the executive director, Steve Marks, who resigned effective Wednesday. The Oregonian also reported the scandal came to light last April after an employee complained, which raises the question, why are we just learning about this now? A volunteer board oversees the OLCC, and today the board chair, Paul Rosenbaum, addressed the practice publicly for the very first time.
What did we know? Nothing. Nothing. There is not one person up here who knew a thing about the process, the procedure, the thing we're all discussing today. Not one. Not one. And if we didn't know about it, and we didn't, then how could we participate in it? We didn't. So stop asking questions about that. I'm telling you, nobody knew anything about this.
He then admitted he learned about the investigation this past September, but defended why he did not take action and instead kept quiet.
I was told, and it was true, that according to Oregon statute, these people were disciplined. Now here's the kicker to this whole thing. To me, I was told that this employment record was confidential. Let me say it again. It was confidential. Let me say it a third time so the press understands it more than anybody else. It was confidential.
Rosenbaum said all these months later, he's still confident he did the right thing. In the end, the investigation obviously was not confidential. It was released to the Oregonian under the open records law.
Well, we understand, and we also have a few more questions for him. There is more, much more. In fact, you can find it in the story section on KGW.com. A reminder, for more in-depth reporting on the big issues, you can catch the story every weekday at 6, only here on KGW. All right, let's get you caught up on tonight's other headlines here. Clackamas County officials are set to vote tomorrow on whether to use state grant money to turn a hotel into transitional housing. Now, the proposed spot here is a Quality Inn just off I-205 on Sunnyside Road. Supporters point out it's close to transit, the county's Sunnyside Health Clinic, and a Kaiser Medical Center. Well, in the battle against opioids, 2 FDA panels have unanimously voted to recommend that naloxone be made widely available and over-the-counter. The drug, also known by its brand name Narcan, reverses the effects of an opioid overdose. Experts determine the drug is safe and effective with little potential for abuse. Their recommendations now go to the FDA, which should make a final decision by the end of March. All right, we're headed east to the Gem State now, a place perhaps better known for its potatoes. Tonight, we have an update on the movement that wants to see a state border, in effect, brought a whole lot closer to Portland. Let's bring in Alma McCarty. And Alma, of course, we are talking about the so-called Greater Idaho movement, and now it seems lawmakers in Boise are actually taking action. What do we know?
Well, David, the Idaho State House today approved a resolution not to move the border yet, but simply to start the discussion. The idea would still need similar approval in Oregon. While it has a ways to go, the fact that the idea got this far is telling.
Matt McCaw believes that if you've lived in Oregon for any amount of time, you can see the east side of the state can be quite different than the west.
For a very long time, there's been this urban-rural divide, and people on the east side of the state have felt like their state-level government has not heard them, has not understood their way of life, their values, their problems.
And that's why a couple years back, a group of people began discussing a new idea.
We started going county by county in Eastern Oregon and asking voters directly, do you want your elected leaders to look into moving the border?
McCaw, a spokesperson for the Greater Idaho Movement, says their plan was originally met with skepticism.
When we started this 2 years ago, I would get that a lot, like, well, this will never happen. Why are you wasting your time?
But he says that sentiment is changing. Several Eastern Oregon counties voted to discuss moving the border, and now resolutions are up for a vote in both the Oregon and Idaho legislatures. In Idaho Wednesday, the House approved the measure following testimony this week.
We want to see the kind of law that reflects faith, family, moral virtue, self-reliance, hard work, the things that Idaho is based on.
Why wouldn't we at least want to have a conversation about increasing the size of our state?
Not everyone was in favor, as expressed by the House Minority Leader.
Have got to learn to get along better and work together better. The answer cannot be to just start carving up the country and redrawing lines that have been in place for a century or more, just so that we can only be surrounded by people that perfectly agree with us.
The vote itself doesn't change the border. Full approval by both chambers in both states simply opens the door for serious conversation between the two states about moving the border.
I think people in the metropolitan areas tend to look at it in the paper and get a good chuckle out of it. But the fact of the matter is, people in Eastern Oregon are dead serious.
Former candidate for Governor Betsy Johnson is now a KGW political analyst. She says while it's far from a done deal, the discussion of Greater Idaho raises real questions and concerns.
Quit treating the symptoms, get at the root problem, and try to figure out why would a portion of Oregon want to leave here? What has made it so bad that they are prepared to go through the administrative and expense and political hassle of trying to separate a piece of Oregon and move it into Idaho?
Now, in addition to the many technical things that would need sorting out should something progress further down the line, Johnson tells me losing a chunk of the state to neighboring Idaho could have a chilling effect on economic development in Oregon and, in her words, be a national embarrassment with so many dissatisfied here. To be clear, even if we get to the point where both state legislatures agree on moving the border, Congress must also approve it. David?
One step closer and a long way to go.